And welcome to AMHQ Weekend. Today, guys, here we are diving into spring, and we've got all kinds of things to talk about.
All right, so good morning, everyone. I'm Jen Carfagno, and for Kate Parker today, along with Reynolds Wolf and Greg Postel. Greg, more winter out there.
I want to say it ain't so, but it is, and we've got to talk about it, and we've got to also talk about the chance for severe weather because late March. It's late March. It's that time.
You're right about that. So let's go ahead and roll up the ugliness. Here you go, folks. We're going to be dealing with some scattered showers along parts of the Gulf of Mexico. Some of these have the potential of being heavy, and again, with the flood watch draped all the way across the state of Texas, guys.
All right, so we go from rain there to literally snow all over the ground still in the Northeast, and it is going to be cold. We've got more cold coming, too. Today, not that bad, but another round of cold coming in that's going to knock our temperatures some 30 degrees below average.
I'm cold looking at that map. It's got those cold colors to it. This does too. A little bit of snow coming into the northern plains. I don't think a whole lot. Watch out. Monday morning commute could be tricky up the Midwest.
But they could actually use a little bit of snowfall, right?
They could. They need it.
Wow.
They need
but we've transitioned already into spring out here. It's been warm lately.
Absolutely.
Yes, it has been. Good.
This is one of those "are you kidding me" kind of forecast.
Very true about that.
Through Wednesday.
G-Money. Thank you. Good stuff.
I'll try to cut those satellite blanks on.
I think Reynolds' kids took over your weather graphics over there.
Gremlins are out there,
Gremlin.
Yeah.
All right, well, coming up, we are talking about the other side of that spring storm, and that is with the threat for severe weather. What's going to play out as we take a look. Now, Minneapolis, we start with you, and we look at some of the very interesting stats. The last time we've had snow in Minneapolis was on March the 6th. That's the last time we had measurable snow. We are running well below average, nearly 2 feet below average. 27.2 inches of snow is all we've had this season. We need more. We're in a drought, actually, all across the state of Minnesota. A lot of spots now in moderate drought, and everyone at least abnormally dry, if not in that moderate drought. So it's good to get a little moisture in here, but it's a clipper. And you know the thing about clippers, you know that all too well, right? That they don't typically bring a lot of moisture with them. So it is a couple of inches of snow in the forecast as we track this thing going through the Dakotas, mainly North Dakota, and then dipping down into Minnesota. This is tonight. We'll see the snow start, and then moving into parts of Minnesota, there will be a stripe. Someone will get about 3 to 5 inches of snow. In Minneapolis, it's possible that it could be you. We're going to see that stripe of snow continue tomorrow as we get you into Sunday night, moving now down into southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois. Again, it's a clipper. It's not going to have a ton of moisture to work with, but if it's energetic enough, we'll get several inches of snow out of this, and there'll be a rainy side of things too. So for Chicago, we're on the snowy side, and we look at our forecast. Chicago, this is Sunday night into Monday. So Monday morning, the Monday morning commute, you wake up and you could be looking at snowfall. Temperatures will be in the low 30s, and we will have snow falling between about 3 and 6 a.m. on Monday morning here in Chicago. And Chicago, you know, the thing is, after March 20th, after the first day of spring, it's pretty typical that we see some snow. In fact, Tom Skilling crunched the numbers, and 75% of the time in weather records, we have had snow after the first day of spring. So this is not unusual, Chicago, to get some snowfall. About the western drought, a dire warning is being issued on the West Coast as the region remains in a devastating drought in California. Lawmakers are working on a $1 billion relief plan, and water restrictions will soon be in place, but many fear it won't be enough. NBC national correspondent Miguel Amaguer has the report. Now, the thing about the water at restaurants, it's more to raise awareness of the issue than anything else. Of course, it hopefully will save water as well, though. Let's look at, first of all, the drought situation in California. We have 67% in the extreme drought category. 3 months ago, it was 78%. The only improvement we've really seen this winter has been across parts of Northern California, and even that hasn't been that much. Now, we take a look at the rainfall potential over the next 7 days. And yes, there's going to be some rain in Washington and Oregon and maybe Northern California, one of the only spots that has seen any improvement in the drought. But as you look at the 7-day rain forecast, there is none all the way down into the Central Valley, none down into Southern California. The Sierra does not have any additional snowfall in the forecast this week, and that is a big concern when we look at the future water supply for California. This is a developing story continuing right here on the Weather Channel. And next on AMHQ Weekend, now that spring has arrived, all right, so let's look at the top stories for today, Reynolds.
Yeah, and we're going to get things kick-started in parts of Texas. I mean, in San Antonio, that is where we got the big stuff, the heavy rain coming down there. And you know what? I'll tell you, Jen, it's going to be across much of central, west Texas, east Texas, all getting hammered by the rain. And we're going to see it drive its way to the east. All
right, so if you need to know 3 things about the weather for today, that is number 1. Number 2 is the fact that there is more cold air coming back to the Northeast. Not that bad today in Pittsburgh or D.C. or New York City, but there's more cold coming.
You're absolutely right about that. So many people don't want to deal with it. And I'll tell you, although people in parts of the upper Midwest might not want to deal with the snow, they actually need it. They've got a drought going on right now.
We do. But you might be in spring mode thanks to the warmth that we've had lately. Unfortunately, that's changing. We've got a little bit of snow coming on in, and we're going to time that out for you in your forecast.
You're absolutely right.
Segment, Talk Like an Expert. It's kind of like a weather 201, we'll call it, right? So
Sure.
It's not a 101, but this is a 201.
Yeah, hopefully you'll learn something out of it.
All right, so this week's word.
Words,
phrase.
Right. Ensemble forecasting. Let's tell everybody what that is. Ensemble forecasting is a method of weather forecasting. I think it's critical, and we've made a lot of advancements in our predictions because of it. It's just a method of prediction that tries to capture the future uncertainty, because we know all weather forecasts have that. We try to capture it by making the forecast from different estimates of what this atmosphere looks like right now.
I think if you ask a lot of meteorologists what their favorite forecast model is, they won't say one, they'll say the ensemble.
The ensemble of them, because you have to run them a lot of times, because you know running them once it's going to be wrong, and the reason why it's going to be wrong is two reasons actually. The model itself is not accurately capturing the atmosphere. It's got inherent errors in it, but also the data that goes into it is wrong. There's no way to get it right.
If there's garbage in, it will be garbage out.
Exactly.
So we have to try to fix that.
So let's take a look at this sort of schematic about how it works. Okay, so what you do when you run a model for the first time, you throw in some data. You know it's got some errors around it, but you try to say, okay, this is the best guess of what the atmosphere looks like now. But you also know that there's possibilities that it could look a little bit different. And so you try to sample the atmosphere at the initial time in a way that you think, okay, it could look like this, it could look like this, but we'll try to capture all of that and then run the models forward to capture all the uncertainty that may be lingering in the forecast at a future time.
So if you have this little bit of difference in what's happening right now, look how big that could become, is what you're showing.
That's chaos. That's the butterfly effect, right? Because you know the little errors that we absolutely will have in the initial time are going to amplify, and you try to figure out, okay, how is it going to amplify over time? And this is what we're getting. So in the beginning, there's always uncertainty. And in the end, there's always uncertainty. But you got to try to figure out, okay, how much is there and how much do we have to really pay attention to?
But we have to make a lot of assumptions in the beginning, right? We don't know exactly what is happening on our Earth everywhere at all times.
You can't. You can't sample the Earth everywhere. And actually, everywhere kind of matters.
Right, it does matter.
You can't sample it everywhere, and not only that, but the instruments that are taking that sampling also have errors too. So bottom line is, this is how we do it. For example, look at the blue line here and the red line there. Those are temperature contours, say at high altitudes at the jet stream level. That's what it looks like at time zero. And just notice, there's a lot of blue lines in there because we're sampling all the possible configurations of the atmosphere here and here. Let's go 10 days out. What happens when you go 10 days out? Look what happens to those tiny little wiggles about what you think it looks like at time zero to 10 days out. Look at the spread here and there, and you think to yourself, I think it's going to be ridging in the southeast in 10 days.
This is why a 10-day forecast is hard.
An unbelievable story out of Canada. A reporter covering a snowstorm in Halifax, Nova Scotia, was on the scene as paramedics helped dig a path to get a pregnant woman who was in labor. Now,
after they got her to safety, the reporter heard another woman's plea for help. She, too, was going into labor. Reporter Brett Ruskin with Global News walks us through his incredible day.